All right, guys, another episode from the coach's desk. Myself and Jordan, we were on the gym floor the other day. Had an athlete come up to us, pretty new athlete, guy in his 40s, pretty lean, athletic guy who played soccer. And he was like, hey, I want to pick your guys' brain about something. I really would like to put on some weight, put on some mass. And as we began to talk to this athlete, we're like, obviously very kind of common cues from a coach. It's like, well, what are you eating? How much are you eating? You probably need to eat more. Well, it kind of came to light that he wasn't even eating breakfast. So obviously that is a huge block in time and opportunity to start making headway towards the goal of gaining weight. And so I'll let Jordan kind of dive into this one as far as like how this works. How does it work gaining weight, losing weight, and kind of our basic bread and butter nutrition advice.
So with this athlete, the nature of his question was sort of implied in the question was, what kind of training should I be doing? Because right now we're in a conditioning block of training. And obviously if you're lean and you're a hard gainer and you're in a conditioning block of training and you want to gain weight, that's like the opposite of what you would want to be doing. Wouldn't you want to be training hypertrophy? That's where we started asking questions about, well, what does your nutrition look like? Because the plain fact of it is that a lot more of your aesthetics comes down to nutrition and your performance comes down to nutrition than what people are oftentimes willing to accept at the beginning. And so the first thing that we need to understand before we start to talk about specific types of training is, what is your calorie intake? And so obviously if we look at this one athlete, if you're not eating breakfast, that's like 400 to 1,000 calories per day that you are depriving yourself, depending on what you might eat for breakfast. Now, let's look at the low end, or let's look at 500 calories. Let's say that you have a 500 calorie breakfast every single day. Over the course of 7 days, that's 3,500 calories. Now, 3,500 calories is about a pound. So that's already every week a pound that could be used for weight that you're gaining that is just already, it's not even on the table. That's like money that you're leaving on the table. So you can't even access it because you're not eating it at all. So just by adding that one meal, you're adding 1 pound per week that you could be gaining towards your body composition goals. So that's pretty significant. Now, in terms of how we like to approach nutrition and explain nutrition to athletes, because we're not dietitians.
Nope.
We're not nutritionists. But obviously, since we're coaches, and because we've worked with nutritionists a lot and dietitians, and because we work with a lot of athletes, and of course, we've been both athletes and coaches ourselves. We've had coaches, and we are coaches. So there's been obviously a lot of discussion and experience around nutrition for us. We break nutrition into 4 key pillars. Those pillars are, number 1, quantity, the amount of food that you're eating. Number 2, quality. Number 3, proportion. And number 4, timing. Quality is how much food you're eating. Quantity is how much food you're eating. If you are eating more calories than you burn every day, then you are going to gain weight. If you are eating the same number of calories that you burn, then you are going to maintain your weight. And if you eat fewer calories than you burn, then you're going to lose weight. Now, we're not talking about one day necessarily. We're talking about over the course of a week or even a month. It's this sort of bigger picture, comprehensive picture that we're looking at. Even though, of course, it does boil down to how much you eat per day. That's obviously going to go into how much you eat per week, per month, and so on. But the first thing that you have to do is eat the number of calories that are going to get you to what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to gain weight, you must eat a surplus of calories. If you want to lose weight, then you must eat a deficit of calories. That's just how it works. The second pillar is quality. This is related to what is the type of food that you're eating. Are you eating Cheez-Its and cinnamon rolls, or are you eating broccoli and lean chicken? Now, if you're eating the Cheez-Its and cinnamon rolls and you have a 3,500 calorie quantity that you're trying to meet every day, you're not going to have a problem doing that. But if you're eating very cleanly, like with this lean meats, lean proteins, and vegetables, it's going to feel like you getting to those calorie requirements is like a part-time job. You're going to be eating probably 6 times a day, and you probably have like a shake that you're going to have before you go to bed or something like that, just to get the quality of food, or just to get the quantity of food that you need at a good quality. The third pillar is proportion. Proportion has to do with macronutrients. Now, there are 3 macronutrients. There's carbohydrates, there's protein, and there's fat. Carbohydrates and fat are fuel for the body, and fat and protein are raw materials that your body's going to use to build mass in your body, fat mass or lean mass. And you have to eat these in certain proportion to your age, to your sex, to your activity level, to your body type. And of course, there are going to be outliers in all of these things that may push you a little bit more on the higher end or the lower end. Jake is a hard gainer. I'm kind of neutral. Todd is he has a hard time leaning back out. And so, it's going to depend on a number of factors. But regardless, you need to eat the correct proportion of macronutrients. If you're not getting enough carbohydrates, then you're really going to struggle to maintain high intensity sessions, whether or not they're aerobic or whether or not they're more strength based. Carbohydrates are the fuel that our body uses to move the muscles. It's how we derive energy. Of course, the body's a clever system. There are other ways that we can use to do that, but none of them are as efficient as just through carbohydrates. Protein, of course, is good in order to have so that you can build muscle up. And fat is necessary. Not only does it satiate us, but it's also just a good energy store to have, and it's good for protecting our cells. The final pillar is timing. Now, timing is important, but it's sort of the lowest priority because it relates mostly to training. When are we going to eat in order to provide the necessary energy to maintain a high quality training session? If you get this aspect correct, then you're going to have energy expenditure throughout your training session, and you're going to be able to begin the process of recovery much smoother than a person who gets the timing aspect wrong. And the better you recover, then the more you're setting yourself up for success on that next training session. Not only are you giving yourself the opportunity to have the fuels necessary for that next training session the next day, but you're also switching your body from a catabolic state where you're breaking down protein in your body to an anabolic state where you're synthesizing protein in your body, therefore allowing you to recover just a little bit faster.
I think it's safe to say, because this idea of calories in, calories out.
Yeah.
Almost every physique athlete that competes follows these guidelines. Now, we do see kind of an issue when it comes to people who really struggle with losing weight. And we have to understand a few things. One, calories are probably king. Like, the first step is to get the right number of calories for what your goal is.
Yep.
Gain weight, lose weight, maintain, whatever. Understand that if you go into a deficit, more often than not, performance will suffer. You're not going to be properly fueled. But on contrary to that, by going into a deficit, you might lose weight. By losing weight, all of a sudden, certain performance metrics might be better. Your body weight exercises will probably go up. Your movement over ground will probably go up. So you can be at a deficit and can see it in improvement in performance because you're losing weight. But generally speaking, if you're a competitive athlete and you're looking for the most in performance, you probably should be definitely maintenance, if not surplus. Something to understand also is that all of our bodies are very, very different. And that for what works with someone may not work with you. It probably will work with you, just not as fast. So you might have a training partner or a friend, and you're both dropped down. Maybe say you're at a 300 or 400 calorie deficit, and all of a sudden a couple weeks goes by, and your training partner all of a sudden is seeing dramatic changes. You might not see the same changes as them. Hold to the course, all right? Continue, be patient, understand that our bodies are different, and that for some people, it just may take a little bit longer, and it may be a little bit of a bigger challenge. But ultimately, you ask yourself, like, is the juice worth the squeeze? How bad do you want to gain that muscle? For me, I learned a long time ago, force feeding myself to be 10, 15 pounds heavier is just really not worth it for me. It's just too much work. It's too much tracking. It became a job for me. Not really that interested in being that much bigger, all right? Especially because it will cost me on other things, moving over ground, moving in the mountains. So everyone's going to make the determination of whether it's gaining weight or losing weight Is the work worth it?